What's up, Nerfers, and welcome back to my channel, where today I'm taking a look at the SBL2, or more specifically the upgraded high power EX model. I first saw the SBL2 last year while I was in Singapore when I met the designer Gavin Fuzzy, who was doing pretty well with it in some gameplay, mind you. It has a very M4 or AR style look to it. I mean, look at the fake selector switch on both sides. Full ambi, bro. Whether that added realism is a turn off or a turn on for you, ultimately the SBL2 is a sleek 3D printed, very easy to prime blaster that shoots 300 FPS and has quick takedown functionality with these two pins right here. Now, the SBL2-EX takes the modest power level of the original base blaster and adds a longer barrel as well as more air volume. And it's now pushing out some respectable numbers, which I'll get more in depth on later on. This blaster is sold by Ideal Foam Blaster, who are an online retailer based in Singapore. This particular one was specially printed thanks to Jay at Foamwork Adelaide, who won't actually be stocking this. That was just a friendly request of Jay and the team, who have done an excellent job printing this thing. It feels just like any injection molded blaster would. Long-time viewers would know I'm usually not the biggest fan of 3D printed blasters, but what I can say about this one is that it's actually a hybrid metal blaster. All of the key pieces are metal, and all of the rest of it is very thick printed plastic. The SBL2 has metal internal priming bars as well as metal guide rods that the priming block slides along for a very, very smooth prime. Another crucial part that is metal is the part where the two pins go in for the quick takedown. The end result of that is a very structurally sound blaster which has very minimal movement for a 3D print. All you can really hear rattling around is the magazine itself, and the grip moves side to side a little bit, but so does any other Springer. That's just the nature of having a smooth prime. Now, when I remove these pins out of the metal parts that hold them together, you'll see this blaster actually has a metal pusher. And by having a metal pusher, it allows you to have increased airflow while also having it skinny enough that your mags can be inserted at any time. And having a look at the rear half of the blaster, if we remove the plunger there, gives you access to completely swap out the spring. I believe the SBL2 normally comes with 3 different power levels of spring. This is the red one, which is the highest power of the 3. Then once you've swapped out your spring, it's as simple as pushing the two halves back together again and grabbing your 2 pins, putting one in the top and putting one in the bottom. Simple as that. It's like the Jet Blaster Cedar, but actually high power. With the blaster back together, let's take a look at some of the outside amenities. Up front, you can see the tip of the 40cm aluminium barrel, which has a 16mm outer diameter, suitable for any rifling you like. I've decided today to put Gavin Fuzzy's own 15 bearing B-car on here, which was originally designed for this exact blaster. I thought it was just fitting to use his. Now, to remove that barrel, you've got 2 thumb screws on either side. I'm not going to take it out now, but you just loosen that off. And then there's also an Allen key hidden underneath the grip, just pointing up onto the barrel there. So you've got 3 points of contact holding the barrel in place. For the grip itself, it comes with this angled foregrip, but you can put any grip you like on there because it just has a segment of Picatinny rail underneath. Now, given the fairly lightweight prime of this thing, I am absolutely fine with the angled foregrip. I know some of you find it easier to prime heavy springs with a vertical grip. I'm just saying with this particular one here, I'm having no problems at all with the angled one. Now, the SBL2 has an ambidextrous mag release. If I push that in, the mag gravity drops effortlessly, even with the breech closed. And again, on this side, whoops, I didn't catch it. But anyway, by having an ambidextrous mag release and having the mag gravity drop without having to open the breech up, there's 2 features that a lot of other blasters are unfortunately missing. Taking a look at the trigger now, quick prime of the blaster. This does have a fairly heavy trigger pull to it. Probably my one complaint about the blaster is simply how heavy that is. I reckon it has something to do with the heavy spring we've got inside of this. And if you step down to one of the lighter spring loads, it should also lighten the trigger. Now, there's a little bit of a downside to us wanting 300 FPS out of this thing. Taking a look at the back of the blaster now, we've got a quick detach sling point on either side. And you've also got another one on the stock itself. So you've got one there, turn the blaster around, another one there, another one there. For anyone who likes to run a quick detach sling. There is also a little sling loop at the back here, as well as another one in the front here if you don't have a quick detach type. And then that stock itself has 4 different positions. You can have it fully collapsed, 1 click out, 2 clicks out, or fully extended. And it only has a tiny bit of wobble to it, nowhere near as egregious as some other stocks I've used in the past. And then of course up top you've got a nice long Picatinny rail for any sights you might want to add onto this. With the accuracy of a blaster like this, I would highly recommend a 1x red dot sight. And for anyone who has M-LOK attachments, you can always mount a top pressure pad and then put your flashlight itself onto the M-LOK slots at the front. Gavin's thought of pretty much every feature you could possibly want in a blaster, aside from maybe having a Skittles compartment at the back or something. But with that, that's my overview of the SBL2-EX completed. Let's get to the fun part and do some testing.
The first test is the chrono test.
Now, there are 3 different springs that normally come with this. I've only got the one of them. There's a 235 FPS spring, a 250, and a 275. The one I've got in here is a 275. I expect it probably will shoot a little higher than that, simply because this is based on numbers in Singapore where there's a high humidity, which usually slows the darts down a little bit compared to less humid climates. I've got 2 different dart types to try today. I've got standard 1 gram worker bamboos, and then I've got Sabre 1.3 gram heavies, which I'll do last. These ones should be a little bit faster, and the heavier ones obviously slower. That's how physics works. And I've also got the 15 bearing B-car attached. Let's see how the worker darts do. .324, 303, 283, 302, 284, 292, 295, 297, 291, 298, 318, 296, 295, 302, 289. I'm priming this thing with my right hand, which is unnatural for me, but helps you see the chrono better. That's all the worker darts. Now we'll step it up to the heavier 1.3 gram Sabre heavies, 30% heavier. But will they be 30% slower? Let's find out. 245, 252, 252, 249, 251, 260, 262, 264, 256, 288, 236, 201, 253, 249, 265. That's all 15 of those. Did have a couple outliers, but we'll compare the averages because the workers were also all over the place.
With 1 gram darts, you can expect to shoot an average of around 297 FPS with the stronger of the 3 springs. I did have a standard deviation of 11, which I think could be improved with some better lubrication. This thing is still straight out of the box. If you get it shooting more consistent than this, it should bring that average up above 300 FPS though, which could be problematic based on your rule set. With heavy darts, expect an average of around 252 feet per second. They do go further though, which is why most players opt for heavies these days over lighter weight darts. But with that, it's time for the accuracy test.
Alright guys, it's time for the accuracy test now. If you've never watched one of these before, I do a 1 meter diameter target from 30 meters away, resting on a barrel with a sandbag on top. For the camera buffs among you, I've now switched to a variable ND filter, so I can just turn this to darken the image or brighten it. Much simpler than the magnetic system I was using, although it doesn't allow me to fit a lens hood at the same time. Now I was thinking of just using the worker darts for the chrono test so you guys know what 1 gram do, but while I have them out here, may as well do accuracy test as well. Then I'll do the Sabre darts afterwards. 15 shots of the worker darts. Let's see how they do. Not too bad, a little higher the center. A little lower the center. A little high and left. A little right. A little high and right. Little low and left. Little left. Little right. So it does seem to be zeroed because it's going either side of the target bullseye. Low and left. That was a little bit closer, but tiny bit left of the center. Bit low that one. Bit left. I reckon that low one could have blown the tip off or something. Bad dart, I reckon it was. That one was a bit higher, and must be getting near the end of them. Bit to the right. Bit high and right. That felt like nothing went in. There we go, dry fire. Actually feel when it doesn't chamber a dart. Now, Sabre heavy darts. 30% heavier, a little bit longer foam as well. They end up being a little bit more aerodynamic, a bit straighter. Let's see how they do compared to worker. Pretty close to center, little high and left. Bit high. Pretty close to center. Bit high. Bit high and left. Bit low. Bit low. Bit high and left. Bit low. Bit low and right. Bit high. Bit high. Bit low. Bit high. Center. That's all 15. We'll have to head back inside and see how the results went. I reckon the Sabre darts, a bit narrower, but a bit taller. Though we did have that one worker dart that hit the cinder block underneath. So we'll see how they compare.
From a distance of 30 meters, worker darts in blue shot a spread 1 meter high and 45 centimeters wide, while Sabre darts shown in red shot a spread half as wide, around 25 centimeters, with a height also half the size at 50 centimeters. It helps visualize these differences if I make the worker grouping transparent. But at least in this test, Sabre darts were twice as good as worker darts. Now, with the Saber Dart grouping so narrow, the main thing throwing them off a little is the height, which is velocity related. So going back to the chrono test, I think some further tweaking to improve the consistency of that velocity could definitely shrink that saber spread down even further on the vertical. Whether that's using a little bit better lube than what it comes with, or perhaps changing out some of those O-rings. Now for some final thoughts recorded in the field straight after that accuracy test.
A couple of years ago, I reviewed the original SBL, which I said at the time was the nicest feeling 3D printed blaster I've ever felt. The build quality reminded me of injection molded blasters, which is a top praise for a 3D printed one. My main complaint of the original SBL was the power level was a bit too low for what I play. But now we have the SBL2-EX, which is pushing the boundaries a bit up to that 300 FPS level. With the 1 gram worker darts, you saw it shooting over 300 FPS. I reckon if I were to re-lubricate this thing, I haven't touched it since I got it from Jay at Foamwork, put a bit better quality lube in it, maybe check the O-ring seals, I reckon I could get this shooting consistently over 300 with 1 gram darts. Now this also is a step up over the original SBL in terms of build quality. It's a hybrid metal blaster now. All the crucial parts are metal, so where the pins go in to join the two halves of the blaster together, your priming bars, the pusher so that you can have a thinner wall and get more airflow through it while still allowing a gravity mag drop. And then you've got like the stock and everything has metal parts as well so that it doesn't break. Not only is this a 3D printed blaster that feels just as good as an injection molded one, it does that while having 2-pin takedown functionality. This blaster is what the Jet Blaster Cedar wishes it would have been back in the day. This does it way better. No flimsy, wobbly side to side, no rattly pins, and it shoots over 300 FPS. If you're after something a little bit different than the worker Harriers and Seagulls everyone's running around the field with, I reckon the SBL2 could definitely be the next blaster in your lineup. Check it out at Ideal Foam Blaster. They're located in Singapore, so shipping could be a little bit harsh for you. I'll try and find some other websites that might sell this, I'm not too sure. Haven't looked it up yet. But anyway guys, that's it for my review of the SBL2-EX. Like, comment, subscribe and all of that. Here's 2 other videos you might enjoy. And as always, thank you very much for watching. See ya.